Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, brighten our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and welcome to my J-Horror Journal. I think that's the one. I think that's the right intro. I've been workshopping that. I think we need to not acknowledge the fact that there's not another coast for these. I think that's the one. I think that's the good one. So welcome. Happy Halloween. Hope everybody's having a good time. Hope you're going to get a chance to enjoy the world of trick-or-treating if you have kids, or maybe you just want to go cause some chaos on Halloween night, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not telling you to. I'm just laying out options. But we always have like a little special bonus episode just right on Halloween, just because we try to go all out for October. And since these J-Horror Journal things have been like the reason for the season this year, to make up for some lost time, I figured why not one more. I need a break from the Death Forest films, so if you've been keeping up with this little side series, you know that those movies are, despite the interesting history behind them, not the greatest. I've got 2 more to go, part 4 and part 5. Kind of hoping, just one of those will take a wild swing and do something super ultra crazy. But we'll see. I'll get back to those. Again, these like little Halloween ones are supposed to be light and fun and airy, and I tried to think of something that was both J-horror related, but also light and not so heavy as like a movie review. But we will get into that in just a moment. Bigger thing I want to talk about, we have some super cool new art. We have a logo just for this little side series now. Dustin's J-Horror Journal. I actually commissioned this, so I want to shout out the artist, Nobu Freak. He's on Twitter, he's on Instagram, he's got an art station with his, all of the works he's made and stuff. You can go check out his portfolio. Just super awesome. He was looking for some Halloween commissions and kind of has this really good, Junji Ito-esque inspired, art style he can do. And it seemed perfect for the logo for this. Help us get some more cool art for the podcast in general. So I reached out to him, and he was great to work with. Shout out to you, man. Love you. You did a great job with this. It's so cool. I love it. I love it to death. I love staring at it. And hopefully it'll help, maybe catch some eyes and turn some more people onto the show and what we're doing here. All in the name of celebrating film, celebrating horror, all that good stuff. So definitely check the show notes for this episode. Go show Nobu Freak some love. Check out what he's got going on. If you dig the art, commission something. It's really easy just to reach out and check in with an artist and get something commissioned. I know a lot of my friends in circles of doing tabletop role-playing games have commissioned art of their characters, which is super awesome. I've surprisingly never done that before, but maybe one day. This was actually my first experience commissioning art. And so I guess, thanks Nobu Freak for making that a super streamlined process, and you almost immediately jumped into an idea that was better than anything I could have thought of to start with. You just kind of got the layout of this is the show, this is what we're doing, this is what we talk about, and you were just oop, got it, boom, go. And it's fucking amazing, and I love it, and thank you so much. So with that out of the way, really wanted to make sure to spare some time to that. You always need to thank your artists. I think that's super important. Because every little piece comes together to count to make the final feel of everything. So, I thought today, for this little extra episode, I would recount some of my favorite Japanese urban legends, particularly focusing on ones that have turned into film, because that keeps our little connection of the movie angle going. So I just pulled 3 of these, and then I pulled a bunch of films that I have seen or know of that include them or have adapted them. And we'll just kind of work through those. Maybe you'll learn a little something today, maybe not. Nothing else, maybe you'll find a few movies to go hunt down and check out. So I will reconvene with you after the jump. Alright, so today, for Halloween, I'm imparting you with some spooky urban legends out of Japan that have gone on to inspire numerous J-horror films. I just picked three of my favorites, grabbed them real quick, found a nice little write-up that I could easily read to relate the story, and we'll just get right into it. I'm going to start with, this one's actually, I guess, shout out to Jason. You put this into my mind in our movies that scare us discussion. So when he talked about Candyman, for a moment he reflected on the whole basis of that it was like, kind of Bloody Mary inspired, and kind of the actual fear that was caught up in that of like when you're a kid and you first hear about Bloody Mary, and it's like, I mean, it seems like it couldn't be a thing, but yet there's that tension to even like want to try it to see if anything happens. And I think this first one is pretty much, I would say, the Japan equivalent for Bloody Mary, at least about as close of an approximation as you can get. And that is Hanako-san, also known as Hanako of the Toilet. And Hanako is supposed to be the spirit of a young girl, obviously named Hanako, and she haunts bathrooms. Hence Hanako of the Toilet. So like a lot of urban legends, the actual story is pretty short and pretty brief, which is fine for our purposes. And there's also a lot of variations on it. There's different reasonings, different things going on. I think I'll hit you with just the story first, and then we can get into some of like the little extra bits of it. But so this is the legend. Hanako-san is the spirit of a young girl who haunts school toilets. And some people refer to her as a yokai, which is sort of like, mythical creature of sorts. And some people refer to her as a yurei, or that would just be a ghost. So there's a little varying definition on what she actually is. Legend to legend, her physical appearance will often change, but the usual, most common description is it's a young girl with a bobbed haircut, and she's got a red skirt or dress on. So that's just the full basis of it. As far as the origin, why is she haunting this said toilet? That can vary story to story. So probably the most common version is that she's like a student of the school and that she was murdered. Sometimes it's by a stranger that just like wandered onto the school. Sometimes it's an abusive parent. Sometimes it's a teacher that was taking advantage of her. It kind of just, pick your flavor for whatever story you're telling at that point. When we speak of, Japanese high schools and horror, one of the things that always comes up, and I mentioned this just a few episodes ago, is the whole bullying angle. So there's also the version that she was just this terribly bullied girl, and she committed suicide in the school toilet, and ergo she haunts the bathroom. There are other variants too. There's one where she's a child that was living during World War II, and she got killed in an air raid. They were playing hide and seek on the school, and she decided to hide in one of the bathroom stalls. And then a bomb hit the school, and she perished in the blast. And it's a pretty dark one, I guess, to take on that one. But so that's kind of your background. But then the main part of it is that they say that you can, summon Hanako and talk to her. And this is where it gets very Bloody Mary-esque. So it's the girls' bathroom, of course. If it's a multi-level school, they'll usually say it's on the third floor. And you go to the third stall and knock 3 times and ask, Hanako-san, are you there? And if she's present, and if you've reached out to her, she'll usually reply with something. She'll give you a yes, or I'm here, or that kind of thing. And then, depending on the version of the legend, different things happen. You may see her hand creep out from around the door. The door may swing open and she'll drag you in, and then there's variations of she kills you, she drags you to hell. There's even a weird one where it says the door swings open and there's like a 3-headed lizard that like eats you. Just comical and weird. But I mean, that's it. That's, it's the same thing as Bloody Mary, right? Pretty much. Also makes me think of, Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter. Now, I don't want to go on a limb to wager whether that was just her being clever or if she was familiar with this when she wrote those. I'm not big on the world of Harry Potter, so I'm not the one to be having that conversation. But, bathroom ghosts, I guess they're a thing. Why not? It's fun. They think there's a folklorist, Matthew Meyer. He's talked about this legend, says it goes back to about the 1950s. Part of the reason it's so well known is because it's the kind of thing where it's, it's an urban legend that's focused on a school. So it kind of bounces from school to school between students. And then, from the 90s on, it's been a popular topic to adapt into film, animation, media of all kinds. So it's just been very proliferated over time. So I'll talk about maybe some of the other appearances she's had besides film, because that's really what we're going to dig in on. But She's been in numerous anime, numerous manga, video games. She's appeared in things like Gegege no Kitaro, which is like probably one of the greatest manga and anime that has anything to do with like yokai and spirits and ghosts and stuff like that. The very infamous Ghost Stories anime, which over here in the West got like a comical dub made for it. The Yokai Watch series that took a run at being like the next Pokemon basically for a while there until it fizzled out. She appears as a character in that. I think her English rename title is Toiletta. Obviously, toilet pun. One of my favorite things is there's actually a current Japanese idol singer who's based her whole persona on Hanako-san in this legend. She goes by the name 14th Generation Toilet Hanako-san. And yeah, she has the look, she has the style, she kind of does the like, the baby metal thing of mashing up like idol music with, harder rock, which is super cool. I'll definitely throw one of her songs in the show notes because it's worth checking out. And there's been a more recent anime that kind of flipped everything on the head. Believe again, inspired by a manga. Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which is sort of a paranormal series that flips it and makes Hanako be a boy instead of a girl. I've actually never checked that out. I don't know. As someone who loves urban legends and weird ghost stories and stuff, I probably should watch it, but never got around to it, so there you go. There's also some other prominent urban legends that have to do with bathrooms. From Japan, we've got Akaname, which is supposed to be this yokai that, like, exists in bathrooms and kind of just goes around and licks up all the filth that's in there, which is funny. And then there is Akamanto, or Red Cape, which is this really goofy one that's like, you're in a stall and the person next door is asking for toilet paper, and has to do with, like, do you want the red paper or the blue paper, and then it's like this skeletal monster that just kills you. Very goofy. I don't want to get into it this time. We'll save that for another time, but just a thing to have in your mind of the wonderful world of, like, Japanese yokai and urban legends, because there's so many of them and they're so cool. So as far as films, there's been a ton. I just plucked a few to look at. One of the earliest is from 1998, just called Hanako of the Toilet, directed by Yukihiko Tsutsumi. This one's pretty good. I've actually seen it. It's out there. It's fan subbed. You can get at it. It's a little generic. Definitely trying to cash in on the J-horror boom that was starting in the 90s. It does kind of frame her as like a little more tragic. They're trying to like unravel the story of why she's there, who killed her, that kind of thing. I think it fails a lot in its effects and a lot of other stuff. And the big thing is, to have came out in 1998, pretty sure that's the same year as The Ring. And, that just is like another level. So this was like playing sort of in the realm of what had been done before this point, and was maybe a little too late on that train. Then we've got in 2001 a short film directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who we all love here, of course, just called Hanako-san. And yeah, it was just his attempt to kind of adapt that. Never seen that one, actually. I've been meaning to look it up. I know it's out there. I know people have seen it. Judging by Letterboxd, it looks like not maybe his greatest work of all time, which is fine, Kiyoshi Kurosawa's like goddamn legend at this point with doing like horror and thrillers and stuff, so he's allowed a few duds, I think, for sure. 2013, we have Hanako's Spirit in the Washroom. This is directed by Masafumi Yamada, who's actually, we're going to talk about him again later with one of the other urban legends. He's done a lot of J-horror stuff. Probably the prominent thing people would know for him is he did the live-action adaptation of Corpse Party and Corpse Party Book of Shadows, which were based on a very popular horror video game that also got an anime OVA adaptation too. So he is no stranger to the old adapting urban legend to film kind of thing. This one's out there. It is subtitled. You can get at it. Not easily, though, unfortunately. I don't remember it very well. It was decidedly average. It leans into the bullying version of the story. We follow a lead who moves from Tokyo to the countryside, has to go through the whole like bullying, hazing thing by being the new student. They weave that and like intermix her experience with what happened to Hanako and caused her to haunt the school. Bouncing ahead to the same year, actually, Koji Shiraishi gets in on the game with this. His very famous direct-to-video Sumitsu Kaiki file Kawasugi, which is like a fucking legend of found footage stuff. Really like to talk to those about those maybe like film by film on this show at some point, because they're very interesting, they're very interconnected, and they actually even like make a weird multiversal shared universe with some of his other films. But more on that another time. This is the fourth entry, titled The Truth, Hanako-san in the Toilet. And yeah, it's the same thing you expect from this series. You know, it's like a group that does paranormal investigations and makes videos and put them out seeking the truth. And in this one, a video that they pick up to investigate leads them into the classic Hanako legend. This one's really over the top, and it's where they start to get into some of like the bigger themes that they kind of recycle in this franchise. So, pretty seminal part of the whole Kawasugi thing, if you dig those films. And then one of the more recent ones I wanted to talk about, 2016, Hanako of the Toilet, Hanako vs. Yosuke. So this is directed by Yasutake Tori, which is actually going to be a familiar name if you've been keeping up, because he directed Death Forest 3, and he'll be our director on Death Forest 4. Now, if I had come to this film having experienced Death Forest 3, I would have been a little reluctant, but I actually quite liked this film. It's probably my favorite of any adaptation I've seen of Hanako. Just because the plot's like super weird. You would think it's not that good, and I think most of the Letterboxd reviews are pretty tepid, you know, like the 1-2 star area, but it's got a lot against it, so it's meant to be one of those like promotional kind of movies where a lot of the main cast is put from like pop stars and idols, and it's kind of just a vehicle to get them into like filming and movie credits and stuff. So those usually aren't the most like thoughtful and put together and well done, but this one actually I quite liked. So it actually mashes up two things, because we have this other character, Yosuke, that's another ghost yokai thing, and it actually like pits them against one another. So we follow this woman that's like an apprentice to an exorcist, and they have all this interesting lore about their stuff because they use like water as the main element in their exorcism. It's like a purification thing. But they get brought in because a rock band decided to break into an abandoned school on a bet and film some footage there. And while there, they came under the curse of this entity known as Yosuke. As the lead and her mentor try to like get involved and help, you know, save them from this like curse that's on them and get rid of this evil spirit. When their exorcist abilities end up not being enough, the main chick has kind of a connection to Hanako-san and ends up like bringing her into things to kind of like have spirit versus spirit and have them clash. It's very cheesy. It's very over the top. It gets a little like live action anime at some points, but it was just really, really stupid, but really fun. So I kind of give that one a pass. And that's only just, you know, a slice of things, so I'm sure there's plenty more out there. But, you know, give some of those a look and see if you can find yourself an adaptation that you enjoy, so you can experience one of the, like, penultimate urban legend entities from Japan. So next we'll move on to probably one of the more popular, I would say, or maybe, like, well-known as far as, like, being mainstream overseas. And that is Kuchisake Onna, or the Slit-Mouthed Woman. Now, immediately, you're probably, if you know it at all, and you're not already like a scholar of being interested in Japanese urban legends or ghosts or history, you'll know it from Carved, the Slit-Mouthed Woman, which was a film adaptation directed by Koji Shiraishi that is actually not one of his like found footage endeavors. It's actually just a proper studio picture. But, you know, of course, first we'll get into the legend. So according to legend, the Slit-Mouthed Woman was this lady who was mutilated in life, and her mouth was slit ear to ear, kind of the Glasgow smile sort of thing. And again, like all urban legends, we have some variations. So in some versions, it's that she was this married woman, and she was very adulterous, or she was like the secret mistress of this samurai. They say she grew lonely because the samurai or husband was away all the time, busy with things, and she started having affairs with men around town. When the samurai heard of this, he was outraged, And as a punishment for her infidelity, he sliced the corners of her mouth, ear to ear. In some other versions, more modern ones, they say that she went into some kind of like cosmetic procedure, either like facial surgery, or she needed some kind of medical or dental procedure, and they like botched it and it messed up her face, or sometimes they say she was attacked by a woman that was jealous of her beauty. After that point, when her mouth gets all cut up, she dies and returns as a vengeful spirit. They say that she covers her mouth with a cloth mask. Often they'll specifically say it is a surgical mask. Or in some other iterations, she might have a hand fan or like a handkerchief. But she will carry a sharp instrument with her. Sometimes it's a knife, sometimes it's a machete, sometimes it's a scythe, sometimes it's a big pair of scissors. Just any, whatever of the moment kind of slashy thing makes sense for your story. And she's also described as having supernatural speed. If you try to run from her, you can't outrun her at all. But her usual MO is that she will just kind of show up somewhere following someone. And she will approach them. And she will ask them if they think she is attractive. Usually she will say, "Am I pretty or am I beautiful?" And if the person answers no, she will reveal her bladed weapon and proceed to kill them. If they answer yes, that they do think she's pretty, she will take off the surgical mask, reveal her mutilated mouth that's all creepy. And a lot of depictions at this point, they will change it to that she has like razor sharp teeth as well. And then she will repeat the question again and say, even now, even like this. And if the person screams or gets scared or overreacts at all, she will then again kill them with the weapon. So what's the out of this? You think, well, then you'll say yes, right? But if you say yes, she will then proceed to slice the corners of your mouth ear to ear and let you know that you can now be as beautiful as she is. They say that an individual can survive the encounter through several methods, and that varies legend to legend. There is some versions that kind of just give you the out and say that if you confirm that she's beautiful, she'll leave you alone. Though even that one has variants where they say that she'll take that answer, spare you, and then show up in the night and kill you while you're sleeping. Which I kind of like, because that one's just kind of mean-spirited. Some other tactics people throw out, they say that to tell her that you're running late, and just bow and apologize and run off, and that will usually get her to leave you alone. Some people say you can reply and say that you think that she looks average, and that will stun her long enough that you can run away before she decides to come after you. Some versions say you can distract her with money or hard candies, which is pretty funny. And then some versions even say a specific type of candy called Beko Ame. It's made of caramelized sugar. And you just kind of throw those at her and she will stop to pick every single one up. And also they say that sometimes you can say the word pomade 3 times at her. And that will convince her to flee and run away. Which is also pretty common. As far as any history on this, that same folklorist, Matthew Meyer, he writes a lot about Japanese legends and has a lot of good insightful stuff. But he says the roots of this legend go back to the Edo period in Japan, which was the 17th to the 19th century. But that is contested. There's a Japanese literature professor, Ikura Yoshiyuki, and he says that he actually thinks it dates to the 1970s. The earliest known printed version of the story comes from 1979. It was printed in a newspaper as like an account from someone. It was sort of that urban legend, like fear virus thing, even where like once then one newspaper report happened, other people were like, "Oh, I'm seeing her. I'm seeing the Slit-Mouthed Woman," and it became this big like blow up to do, with like parent-teacher associations getting involved and trying to organize like safety walks home from school. Yeah, so it's interesting. So same thing for our Slit-Mouthed Woman. She's had tons of film appearances, manga, anime, video games. They even mention her in The Ring as like when they're trying to unravel what's going on there. That's kind of floated as like, well, you know the story of this character. And she's even had more modern appearances. There's a video game called Ghostwire Tokyo that's very cool. That's kind of very based in Japanese myth and urban legend and ghost stories. And she's a particularly powerful encounter in that game to deal with. But of course we want to talk about film. So let's get into some film. Her earliest film appearance is from 1996, just called The Slit-Mouthed Woman, and it's directed by Teruyoshi Ishii. Now, I have to say Teruyoshi Ishii because when I say that, you're going to think of Teruo Ishii, and this is actually a different person. Teruyoshi Ishii is a Japanese film and television director. Not quite the same career as the other Ishii that we would speak of, or like all his amazing exploitation films. This guy, he made a 80s horror film that's kind of underground and popular, Psychic Vision, Jiganrei. He actually worked on some tokusatsu stuff. He did the Gridman, the Hyper Agent, which was turned into, I think, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad in the US. And he also did several seasons of Ultraman, including some really popular ones like Ultraman Tiga, Dyna, and Cosmos. But I don't know a lot about this film. I assume it's out there. It's got some reviews on Letterboxd, so there must be some way to watch it. Most of the reviews, I kind of scoured them to try to get a sense of the plot because there's not a good synopsis online. And a lot of people refer to it as like an anthology film that just happens to have one story that's focused on the Slit-Mouthed Woman. So yeah, a little bit of a mystery there, but that's her earliest film appearance that we know of. Now, the most prominent one is going to be from 2007, and that again is Carve the Slit-Mouthed Woman, directed by Koji Shiraishi, one of his studio endeavors. I've always liked this one. I know people are kind of mixed on it. It is a little, I guess, slow to get going, perhaps, but I think it's cool. I think it's fun. It's getting restored in that J-Horror Rising box set from Arrow, so maybe they'll give people a chance to kind of reevaluate it. And I'm actually curious to go back to it myself. I haven't seen it, probably since whenever it got the original DVD release over here, so I'm due for a go back and to check back in again, but it was at least successful enough to spawn some more films. So after that entry, we got a sequel in 2008, and this was Carve the Scissors Massacre, and it was directed by Kotaro Terauchi. He's got a lot of stuff to his credit, not a lot that I have seen or know about. He seems to cover a wide range. We got a lot of like direct-to-video horror stuff. Also, we have some dramas in there too. So I've never seen this. I don't know a lot about it, but I guess that you got to up the ante right from the first one. So we can't just have one killer. We have to have a full-on massacre now. And then also in 2008, there was a prequel that was made called The Slit-Mouthed Woman Zero: The Beginning. And that was directed by Kazuto Kodama. Kodama you might know because he has done a lot of the Tokyo Videos of Horror, which is a very long-running series that's just sort of like these weird little like found footagey anthology horror series. They're super, super fun, great, like easy watches too, but like it's also supposed to just be like cursed videos of like it was footage that was shot for like a TV show or a movie or a thing like that, and then something paranormal or weird or crazy happened, and so the video was sealed, and each volume was just like, here's some of these tapes, check them out. And they kind of present it like it's true footage, even though it's staged. So, I don't know, I would give that one a shot. I don't know how it came out. Like a lot of these all have pretty tepid Letterboxd receptions, so I'm guessing maybe not that great, but we would see. I don't know. Based on the synopsis, it looks like our character that becomes a Slit-Mouthed Woman had some kind of like accident and got some facial trauma. So I guess they're kind of going with that version of the story. Moving on a little bit, we have from 2008, Bizarre Urban Legend, Slit-Mouthed Woman. And this one is directed by Toru Kikawa. He doesn't have a lot to his credit, and a lot of the films that he did besides this look like kind of cheesecakey stuff, with like girls in sexy costumes and like sailor uniforms and kind of weird, vaguely like live-action Sailor Moonish looking stuff, but maybe a little more fetishized. So I don't know. This seems like just another low-budget entry. Has a decent-looking poster, so I'm intrigued on from that one. Moving into a little more modern time, 2011, we have Hikiko-san versus Kuchisake Onna, directed by Hisaki Nagaoka. Another director I'm not super familiar with. Same deal. He's got some horror entries. He's got a little of this, a little of that. He seems to like to do versus films where he takes urban legend monsters and makes them fight one another. Besides this Hikiko-san one, he's got a Hikiko-san versus Kokuri-san, which, Kokuri-san is one I should really talk about. That's kind of their version of like a Ouija board type thing, but we'll save that for another time, I think. And then we've even got a Hikiko-san versus Sadako. I know there's been a string of like kind of rip-off Sadako films that have happened in more recent times where it's not the actual like licensor holder, but you know, it's one of those loophole things where they can just call it Sadako and get by with it. But yeah, Hikiko-san, it's another Japanese urban legend entity, and apparently some kids fall in way of danger from it, and then they get crisscrossed between it and the Slit-Mouthed Woman, so probably not a good film, but I'm betting it's going to be pretty fun. 2012, we got a Slit-Mouthed Woman Returns. I think this is trying to be a continuation of those earlier ones with the carved title. Directed by Junichi Yamamoto. Now, he's kind of interesting because he did do the Meatball Machine films. I think at least the first one. And then he's got some other, like, low-budget direct-to-video horror stuff to his credit, so could be some stuff going on with this one, but it's your typical like setup that you would expect. It's some graduate students studying folklore, head out to a small village to investigate local legends, stumble upon the Slit-Mouthed Woman, and get mixed up into a bunch of chaos. Like you do. Also in 2012, Koji Shiraishi has to come back to his own stomping ground, and this was the start of the Senritsu Kaiki file Koasugi series with File 1, Operation Capture the Slit-Mouthed Woman. So this was the start of his grand mockumentary series about a TV crew that covers urban legends, and they stumble on a video that some kids took, apparently of the Slit-Mouthed Woman, and then they go down a wild rabbit hole trying to capture her on video and in person, so they can reveal the truth of what's going on. It's very good. It's a strong start to the series that, truth be told, like all the Koasugi films are great, which is kind of scary because there's a lot of them and they never like dip too much in quality. Even when you maybe don't like one, like the next one will pull you right back in. But this one kind of has like templates of maybe Noroi the Curse in there because like it's got that same vibe of like they start on one thing, and then the story is not really what they thought it was, and it keeps changing and shifting and evolving as they go, and they peel back more and more layers of the story. Super good, highly recommend it. These desperately need like a worldwide release somehow. I don't know if they could ever get it, or if it would be possible, but like, I mean, really all of Shiraishi's stuff needs to be out there, but I don't know, maybe one day. But these are all fan sub now. The subs are out there. You can get at the video if you really need to. I think a lot of them at this point are getting uploaded on YouTube, which would prefer to support an official release, but you know how it is. But definitely, if you're a fan of found footage, especially like the mockumentary style, like these are just choice and must be seen. And then one of the more recent ones, 2017, we've got Kuchisake Onna versus Mary-san. Mary-san is another popular urban legend entity, and this is directed by Naoya Asanuma. He doesn't have a lot to his credit, and in fact, the only other film he has from the same year is another Kuchisake Onna film, which is Kuchisake Onna versus Kashima-san. So yeah, they apparently just really like to pair her off against another entity and have them fight. Which, I mean, right, this is like a gold mine for like low-budget filmmaking, right? You have all these urban legend characters that can't be copywritten, and so you can kind of wholesale make as many films about them as you want, because there's no one that that owns them or has any claim or say on what you're able to do with them. But yeah, that's enough for her for now. Again, Carve is going to be in the J-Horror Rising box set, so if you're picking that up, give that a watch. That's probably your easiest inroad to check out anything to do with this legend in film, at least. And then last but not least, I saved maybe one of my favorites of all time ever for the last one to talk about. And that is Hattori Kakurenbo, or One Man Hide and Seek. So this first appeared as like a post on 2chan, which is a Japanese image board. We have in America 4chan as the equivalent. And that's a whole loaded thing that I'm not even going to get into to talk about, but in the same vein, they have a board that's pretty much just people sharing what you would call like creepypastas. They're just random spooky stories that are told and retold, and you really have no way to know whether it's the truth or a lie or it's just fiction someone made up. But one-man hide-and-seek is a certain style of those. I would say these are more popular in Japan, but they're the ritual-style creepypasta, where it gives you a ritual to follow, and then kind of leaves it open-ended on whether you should do it or not, or dare you try it, or that sort of thing. Which, I mean, we have those, right? Like, even Bloody Mary is sort of a ritual in scheme, but this one's a little more elaborate, so I'm going to be reading this from a blog. I don't think it's active anymore. Maybe it is. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like they have posts as of more recent, but it's called Saya and Underworld. And it's a blog that I've loved for a long time, but it's basically just like they take creepypasta stories posted in Japanese and translate them into English. And also kind of share like weird news or weird stories from Japan. So they're one of the earliest in that game that I ever came across. This actual post I'm reading is from 2008, so that lets you know how far back it goes. But yeah, like, it's really interesting, so I will just read this start to finish, and then we'll get into talking about some of the films that have been made about it. So, one-man hide-and-seek. And here we go. We'll start from the beginning. So, the one-man hide-and-seek, also known as the one-man tag, is a ritual for contacting the dead. The spirits which are wandering restless on the earth are always looking for bodies to possess. In this ritual, you summon such a spirit by offering it a doll instead of a human body. And now they bolded this in red. Warning. If you have psychic abilities, you may feel unwell or be prone to accidents during this ritual. The things that you'll need. A stuffed doll with limbs. Some rice, enough to stuff the doll fully. A needle and some crimson thread. A sharp-edged tool, such as a knife, a glass shard, or scissors. Maybe stick to the knife or the scissors, unless you're just desperate, I guess. You'll need a cup full of salt. Natural salt would be best. And you will need a hiding place to go to. Preferably a room that you've already purified with incense, or maybe have protected with like an ofuda, which is like, those little like spell papers that you see in a lot of Japanese media. And so that's the ingredients you'll need for this ritual. The preparation. Step 1. Take all the cotton, or whatever it is stuffed with, out of the doll, and then stuff it with rice. Step 2. Clip a bit of your nails and put them inside the doll, and then sew the opening up with crimson thread. When you finish sewing, tie up the doll with the rest of the thread. Step 3. Pour water into the bathtub. Step 4. Place a cup of salt water inside your hiding place. Now, after you've made these preparations, here's what you do. Step 1. Give a name to the doll. This could be anything that you want it to be, but you shouldn't use your own name. Step 2. When it is 3 a.m., say to the doll its name. This is going to be weird to read when you have the your name thing, so let's give the doll a name. And you know what? We'll just use Hanako. Why not? I'm fond of that name. So you'll say to the doll, Hanako is the first it, and you will repeat that 3 times. Step 3. You'll go to the bathroom and put the doll into the water-filled bathtub. Step 4. Turn off all the lights in the house. Go back to the hiding place you set up and turn on the TV. It should be set to, like a staticky channel or something. Step 5. When you have counted 10 with your eyes closed, go back to the bathroom with the edged tool, the knife, glass shard, I guess, and have it in hand. Step 6. When you get there, say to the doll, I have found you, Hanako, and stab the doll with the edged tool. Step 7. Then you will say, you are the next it, Hanako, as you put the doll back in its place. And finally, step 8. As soon as you put the doll down, run as fast as you can back to your hiding place and hide. And that begins the game, which, interesting, the post doesn't super discuss it first. Instead, it goes on to how to end the game. And again, we'll go step by step. Step 1. Pour half the cup of salt water into your mouth. Don't drink it, just hold it there. And get out of your hiding place and begin looking for the doll. Take note, the doll is not necessarily in the bathroom at this point. Whatever you do, though, do not spit out the salt water. Step 2. When you find the doll, pour the rest of the salt, whatever's left in the cup, onto it. And then spray the salt water in your mouth out over it as well. Step 3. Say to the doll, "I win!" 3 times in a row. This is supposed to end the ritual. After you complete the ritual, make sure that you dry the doll, and then later burn and discard it. And again, we've got this bold in red. Most important thing to remember. Please don't stop this ritual halfway. You must complete it to the end. This is a very dangerous ritual, and I will not be responsible for what happens to you if you try it. It then goes on to add other things you should keep in mind. And those are, 1. Don't go out of the house until you have finished the ritual. 2. You must keep all of the lights off. 3. Keep absolutely quiet while hiding. Making noises may draw it to your area. 4. You don't need to put the salt water in your mouth the entire time. You only need to put it into your mouth when you're ready to finish the ritual. 5. Remember, you should do this when alone. If you are living with someone, you may put them in danger too. And I just love that that's a warning that's included. 6. Don't continue this ritual for more than 1 or 2 hours. It may be dangerous to go beyond this limit. And the last one, for safety reasons, it might be best to keep all the doors in the house unlocked, including your front door. Also notify some friends that are close by so that they could potentially come and help you at a moment's notice if you ever need them. Keeping your mobile phone close at hand would be a good idea as well. And now then there's some liner notes that kind of explain like some of the little things they put as far as like what you should do and why. And I'll just go through all of those. So 1, why the rice? So the rice is to represent the innards, the guts of the creature. But also, rice has, a spiritual affinity, so it's seen as like including that in there kind of invites the spirit in to take habit inside the doll. The crimson thread, you use crimson thread because that represents, like a blood vessel, like veins. It's supposed to seal the spirit up inside the doll once it's inhabited it. Note 3, by cutting the thread off, you are breaking the seal and releasing the spirit you have trapped. And note 4, and this is the best, if you go out of the hiding place without salt water, you might encounter, quote, something that's wandering around in your house, and it could harm you in some way. Apparently the way to feel the presence of that something is to watch what is happening on the TV, and look for any anomalies or strange sounds or changes in the video. And that's it. That's the legend. Like, dude, it's pretty fucking creepy, right? Like, just imagine sitting down to doing that by yourself. And there's all kinds of videos online that people have shared. And maybe I'll link 1 or 2 in the show notes of, like, where they tried this. And, obviously there's none that went full, like, child's play and the doll was, like, running around killing people. But some people captured weird stuff, and I don't know. Who knows? The blog itself shares like a really old video, and it's one where it's like focused on the TV. And not a lot happens in it, but there is a part in the clip where like the TV starts to act weird. So, I mean, who knows what that is or what caused it or if there's any truth to this or not, but that is what it is. But the important thing is when I read this, I was like, dude, this would be like a bomb-ass premise for a horror film. And of course, people have done that. And actually one of the first, and I'm going to search it down and try to find it, there was like a short film, and it was actually made not in Japan, but in, like English-speaking countries. And it's just a super quick, super basic short film where like 2 girls got together and decided to do the one-man hide-and-seek thing. And it, spirals out of hands as you might expect. There is a multiplayer variant. I'll link that in the show notes. We don't need to go through it. It's almost the same. It's just there's some little extra rules to account for the fact that there's like another person that's going to be hiding. But I'll link to it. They That blog that I sourced this from, they also have the multiplayer version on there too, so you can go read that at your leisure and check it out. But the wild part then is let's get into the films. There's actually surprisingly a lot for this, but I mean, it's such a good premise. So the earliest I can find is 2008, which is Hide and Go Kill. That's the English title. The Japanese title is just Hitori Kakurenbo, which if you roughly would translate that is something like one person hide and seek type thing, or hide and seek alone, or that kind of thing. But so this one, it's directed by Tomoya Kainuma, and it's his only directing credit, so think of that what you will. But I've seen this one actually. I think it's decent. It involves a blog online that shares the story, shares the ritual, and some people stumble across it, decide to try it. People start dying, and the others are looking into it and trying to unravel what's going on. It definitely leans into the online aspect of it, because it has the whole, like, when you learn the story, you get obsessed with it, and you get compelled to want to try it yourself, and then you try it, and you die, and then it's like a virus that keeps spreading and propagating. So not the best. It's a little slow, a little boring, a little plotting. But again, it's such a cool premise, so it's hard not to just want to show it love. So then, 1 year later in 2009, we get Creepy Hide and Seek. No, I've seen this actually. This is one of those films. It was one of the last films I reviewed for the Grimoire before I stepped on from that and focused on other things. But it's directed by Kaoru Adachi, which, if you're a weirdo like me, might be familiar to you. He's done a lot of like adult video stuff, exploitation stuff, pinku type things. He's the founder of the adult video company V&R Planning in Japan. And he, like, his stylistic elements are like all over this film, because it's just about some women who meet up in a chat room. They all know about the Hitori Kakurenbo ritual, and they decide to get together somewhere at this abandoned building and try it and see what happens. And then it gets out of hand, and it gets really weird because it swerves into like some like fetishy, like bondage stuff and like pseudo tentacly things, but it never gets super explicit. It's weird. It's very, very weird. It's worth checking out if you like some fucked up stuff to be mixed in with your J horror. Though, is it good though? I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on this one, but maybe not the best one to watch if you're wanting to get the vibe of like the one man hide and seek ritual. It focuses a little too much on its exploitation-y parts, so it doesn't quite get you there. In that same year, though, 2009, we get a Hide and Go Kill 2. And now this one is directed by Masafumi Yamada, who, again, that brings us back to he's the dude who did Corpse Party. He did our Hanako Spirit in the Washroom film. So Hide and Go Kill 2, it kind of carries on from the first one, where it's like there's a high school girl and her friend goes missing because she played Hitori Kakurenbo. And then she becomes obsessed with it and starts trying to investigate it, uncover the truth, and trace it all back to the beginning. It has the same vibe as the first one, where it's like these very slow scenes. We get some like message board video where it's like you're seeing the post pop up like one after another slowly as people are talking and discussing things. But it's got a cool vibe. It's got a cool atmosphere. The story's really weird, but it's not very engaging. Now, the really weird thing, that's 2009, and then 1 year later, 2010, Masafumi Yamada comes back to this idea, making not a sequel in the chain that was going on, but his own separate film also about the same thing, called Creepy Hide and Seek. Not to also be confused with the Creepy Hide and Seek that Kaoru Adachi made. Now, some of this might just be English titling causing the confusion. They do have slightly different Japanese titles, and it looks like when you translate the actual Japanese title of this one, it's called Hitori Kakurenbo New Movie Edition. So maybe this is sort of like supposed to be a new adaptation of the thing, but this is probably the strongest of the ones that I've seen. It goes back to that same premise. It's school kids. There's a rumor going around about one man hide and seek. People try it. People die. People go missing. People then start looking into what's going on and trying to unravel the truth. I felt this one had a little bit more movement to it, a little bit more energy. It wasn't so just like slow and plodding. But again, it's like pretty spot on, like you're just getting the standard like story of one man hide and seek playing out and killing some people. The most recent I could dig up was from 2012, Hattori Kaku Renbo, the movie, real urban legend. And this is directed by Yasutake Tori, who is our guy that did Death Forest 3, Death Forest 4, and the Hanako film that I referenced that I actually really liked a lot, Hanako vs. Yosuke. So I have not seen his one-man hide-and-seek film, but I plan to. It should be interesting. Based on the premise, it seems like it's got a little more going on than just like people find it and do it. Apparently it's about members of a movie club at their high school. They're going to shoot a film based on Hattori Kaku Renbo. And they want to shoot at the school late at night. And they do, but then of course things spiral out of control. So that's already kind of a more interesting little hook in. But its Letterboxd reviews are few and far between and abysmal. So maybe that's not the best adaptation. But if you have to go with one, man, I'm not sure which one to go with. If you just want to perv out and see some hot chicks, definitely Kaoru Adachi's Creepy Hide and Seek is probably going to get you there. If you want maybe the best attempt at adapting it, maybe the Masafumi Yamada one from 2010 is probably the best of what I've seen, at least. Try to do the idea and take it straight and really adapt it as something that like works as a film. But there you go. A lot of different movies all adapting some fun urban legends, and as we notice, a handful of directors that seem to cycle between these easy concepts to grab and run away with for some low-budget J-horror action and fun. So there we go. That was 3 urban legends that I really dig from Japan. Hanako of the Toilet, The Slit-Mouthed Woman, and One Man Hide and Seek. Go look into some of these films. Check them out. Definitely if you've never seen any of these, they're at least like a fun way to kill some time. Like, even the worst, like, you're not going to feel like you wasted your time watching these. They're at least engaging enough and unique enough from the standard fare of, like, ghost movies that, like, it's going to entertain you. Have you ever tried One Man Hide and Seek? Would you try One Man Hide and Seek? It's like, same thing as would you try Bloody Mary, right? This one's, like, a little more involved, though. All the preparations you have to do. And I think that's the beauty of it as, like, an urban legend. Like, it's so involved. You have to put so much intention and thought into doing it. And if we think about, like, the different ways that, like, hauntings or paranormal phenomenon can work, like, there is that idea that they can be intentional, right? That, like, your own thoughts and energy and intention and focus makes the phenomenon happen. So I find it interesting from that angle, too, that, like, by making the elaborate ritual, they're kind of also training you to, like, influence there being some kind of phenomenon. So that those who then do it and then say something happened, maybe to them something did happen, but it happened because they put out the energy and the intention for that to occur. Which is interesting and fascinating, and I think that's one of the things I love about the paranormal is, like, it's so open-ended, right? Like, we don't really know. We're not sure. I think Jason's a little more sure than I am, but I like to keep my options open, so would you try One Man Hide and Seek? I don't know. Write in, let us know. If you've ever done it, definitely write us in and tell us what happened. Did anything occur? Did your, like, teddy bear get up and chase you around the house with, like, scissors? That'd be crazy. I think that's what this really needs is, like, a decently budgeted, very over-the-top, like, killer doll movie, right? The kernel of it's here, and I can see it in my mind, and I want it to exist. But I don't think we're quite there yet. Maybe one day someone will make that happen. But this has been my J-Horror Journal. We've been talking Japanese urban legends. I hope it was a fun way to pass the time maybe for you. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you found a film you want to go check out. Otherwise, this is supposed to be a fun thing to enjoy on the day of Halloween. And I hope that you have a very lovely Halloween. You spend it in whatever way you do to celebrate the spooky season. Whether that's marathoning a bunch of horror flicks, spending some time with the family and enjoying like a haunt or some family-friendly trick-or-treating even. I will be doing my usual ritual, which is settling in late at night and watching Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I just particularly love that film, and it always fills me with joy, and it has so much like Halloween season feel to it, just from the focus of being like set on Halloween, and then like the Mask Factory and all that stuff, and just its bonkers over the top plot. I love it to death. Would spend Halloween no other way. But all that being said, reach out to us. Let us know what you've been watching. Let us know what you checked out this Halloween season. What was your favorite? What were the gems that really stuck out to you? I know I'm still kind of jazzed up about Smile 2, for sure. Really dug that, especially for like a mainstream horror film. Those like don't always excite me a lot, but this one, like, really both Smile films, I felt like they really knocked it out of the park, and I like to mention them here because to me they feel like they're remakes of a J-horror film that doesn't exist. I feel like they hit a lot of the same beats, have a lot of the same vibes, and I dig that for them. But yeah, man, happy Halloween, and reach out to us, hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, email us at genreexposure@gmail.com, and I'll keep doing these intermittently as needed whenever they happen to crop up. When we go back, we'll get back into it with Death Forest 4, which should be interesting. Maybe it's finally time for Kazuki to uncover some lore about our ghosts, perhaps. That'd be cool. We'll see. But all that said, you have been listening to Genre Exposure. Have a very happy Halloween.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.